The conversation began harmlessly enough at our usual Sunday dinner. It started the same way these family meals always did, calm at first, before gradually turning into quiet contests and thinly disguised critiques. Sarah spent the opening 20 minutes proudly displaying photos of her latest home makeover. This time it was a kitchen overhaul with marble counters, custom cabinetry, and a backsplash she had planned forever. Homeownership really gives you so much freedom, she said while swiping through her phone to reveal yet another shot of the immaculate stone surfaces. The equity just grows every single month, unlike some people who waste money renting with absolutely nothing to show for it. Mom passed the bowl of potatoes with a nod of approval, her expression glowing with pride. Sarah has always been the financially savvy one, very sensible about long-term planning and wealth building, she said warmly. She really thinks ahead. I continued eating in silence, used to these subtle jabs about my supposed financial failures. To them, I was the sibling who never quite measured up, the one with a job they assumed was at some tiny consulting firm, the one driving a modest 3-year-old Honda Civic, and the one living in what they imagined was a rented apartment in a less desirable part of town. Speaking of renting, Dad cut in, slicing his steak with more force than the moment required. Maybe it's time you started thinking seriously about your future. Emmer, you can't live like a college kid forever. At 29, people who are doing well are building equity and buying property, not handing over rent every month to pay off someone else's mortgage. Sarah leaned back in her chair with a triumphant little smile, clearly savoring her role as the financially accomplished daughter. I mean, totally understandable, she added. Not everyone has the credit score or the down payment required to buy a house. Lenders have pretty strict requirements these days. But there are first-time buyer programs out there, even for people in your kind of situation. Every word carried a polished layer of condescension. Sarah had always cast herself as the achiever, the one who planned perfectly and executed flawlessly. She graduated from business school with honors, landed a coveted marketing role at a major pharmaceutical company, and bought her first house at 26, boasting that she'd done it through discipline and smart planning. And then there was me, Emma, the quiet, unremarkable sister who supposedly scraped by in a small job, lived simply, and lacked ambition. The housing market is cutthroat right now. Uncle Robert chimed in from across the table, always eager to jump in when it came to discussing my perceived failings. You need solid income, excellent credit, and a hefty down payment. It's not something everyone can manage. I nodded politely and took another bite of green beans, my usual reaction to their weekly evaluations of my life. You're probably all right, I said mildly. Nothing wrong with renting, Sarah continued, clearly enjoying the spotlight and the chance to demonstrate her superior financial wisdom. Some people just aren't meant for the demands of owning a home. The maintenance, taxes, insurance, fees, it's a lot, and it requires a certain financial sophistication. Mom gently patted my hand, her expression blending sympathy with subtle disappointment. Maybe you could start small, sweetie, she suggested. A condo or a little townhouse, something simple. You could work your way up. If she even qualifies for a mortgage. Dad muttered, quiet enough to sound unintended, but loud enough that everyone heard it. Dinner stretched on for another hour and a half, filled with more stories about Sarah's renovations, her recent promotion to senior marketing manager, and her new 5-year plan to upgrade to a larger suburban home with a 3-car garage and a pool. I listened, nodding only when necessary, staying firmly in the role I'd played for years, while helping clean up. Sarah cornered me in the kitchen as the others moved to the living room. I hope you didn't take Dad's comments too personally, she said with a sympathetic tone that didn't quite reach her eyes. He just wants you to succeed and build something meaningful. We all do, I know, I answered calmly while rinsing dishes and loading the dishwasher. If you ever want advice about getting pre-approved for a mortgage or finding a good agent, I'd love to help, she added. I know someone great who works with first-time buyers, especially those with tighter budgets. She's super patient, I thanked her politely, maintaining the familiar wait that had become instinctive. The drive home gave me space to think about the evening and the predictable pattern it had followed. This routine wasn't new. Sarah flaunted her accomplishments. The family applauded her financial brilliance, and I sat quietly while they critiqued my supposed lack of drive. What none of them knew, what they couldn't even imagine, was that I had been paying Sarah's mortgage for the past 2 years. It had begun small, almost harmlessly, as these things often do. About 18 months after buying her house, Sarah had called me sobbing, explaining that her marketing job wasn't nearly as secure as she had believed. Her company was undergoing major restructuring. Her entire department was being dissolved, and she was facing a 3-month gap before she could find another job. "I don't know what I'm going to do, Emma," she cried into the phone, her voice cracking. "My mortgage is $3,200 a month, and I only have enough savings for maybe 6 weeks, 8 weeks if I stretch it to the breaking point. I can't lose my house. Not after everything I sacrificed to get it." She begged me not to tell the family. Her carefully curated image as the successful sister was everything to her. The idea of mom or dad discovering that she couldn't afford her house would have been unbearable. So I stepped in. At first, I viewed it as a temporary fix to a short-term crisis. I arranged an automatic monthly transfer from my business account to hers, covering the $3,200 mortgage while she looked for new work. It was supposed to last only a few months, but her new job paid significantly less, about $30,000 less per year than her old one. The smaller biotech company offered better long-term stability, but made her mortgage completely out of reach on her new salary. To keep her house, she continued accepting my monthly transfers, now describing them as a temporary loan she would repay once she advanced or found a better paying job. That was more than a year ago, and the payments had never stopped. The irony wasn't lost on me. While she lectured me about building equity and investing smartly, I was literally the one funding her homeownership dream. Every month, I sent $3,200 to keep her afloat while she soaked in the family's praise for her financial success. The consulting firm they believed I worked for was simply a convenient cover for my real business or real estate company I had built over the last 5 years. I owned 17 rental properties spread throughout the city, which produced enough passive income that supporting my sister barely dented my finances. But telling them the truth would require unraveling years of assumptions and the false narrative they had crafted about who I was. Sarah couldn't reveal her struggles without shattering the persona she had built, and I was exhausted trying to prove myself to people who had already decided I was the failure. Monday morning arrived with my usual schedule of reviewing rental, income, and maintenance updates. An email from my property manager, Jonna, summarized the overnight activity. The 17 properties were performing exceptionally well, with occupancy above 95% and rent rising with the market. The Riverside property has multiple strong applications, Jenna said during our weekly call. 3 applicants are offering above asking. We could easily set it at $2,800, maybe $2,900 if we choose carefully. I approved the increase and moved on to expenses from recent renovations at the downtown duplex. Business was booming, more than booming. Actually, the market was strong. Property values were rising, and rental income continued climbing. A text buzzed from Sarah. "Thanks again for dinner. Mom loved having everyone together. Also super excited for my new backsplash. Thinking about redoing the master bath next. You know how renovation projects go." I stared at the message, especially the part about another renovation, likely another $15,000, $20,000 she absolutely could not afford. That night, a decision I had been weighing for months finally solidified. I called Jonna first, keeping my voice calm and businesslike. "Stop processing the monthly transfer from Sarah Matthews for the Riverside property," I instructed. The $3,200 payment tended immediately. "Are you sure?" she asked cautiously. "I can adjust the payment method if there's an issue." "No, I said firmly. Don't accept any more payments from her at all. Starting next month? Understood, she replied. Do you want me to send her a notice? I'll handle all communication myself. Next, I consulted my accountant about the tax implications of ending the arrangement. The payments had been classified as family loans, not rental income, which made the paperwork simple. The most difficult call, though, was to Sarah, Emma. What's going on? She greeted brightly, sounding completely at ease, confident that the financial support would never stop. We need to talk about the mortgage transfers, I said without small talk. Her tone shifted immediately, tightening with worry. What about them? Did something go wrong with the bank? They're ending. Next month is the final payment. Silence hung on the line for nearly 30 seconds, broken only by her increasingly shaky breathing. What do you mean ending? She whispered, panic rising. Emma, I can't afford that mortgage alone. My salary doesn't cover it, not even close. I thought we had an arrangement that worked for both of us. We did for 24 months. But I can't finance your lifestyle forever. But I'm finally getting ahead. She cried. The bathroom renovation will increase the property value. And I'm hoping for a promotion next year. My salary could go back up. I listened as she rattled off familiar excuses, the same ones I'd heard for 2 years straight. Sarah, I said gently but firmly, I can't keep paying your mortgage while you lecture me about financial responsibility. What? I don't lecture you, she insisted defensively. Last night you spent over an hour explaining why I should stop throwing money away on rent. I reminded her. She hesitated, realizing how it sounded. That's different, she argued weakly. I was just trying to help you. You were lecturing me about building equity. Well, I was literally paying your mortgage. Her voice shrank. I know. I can't lose this house. I can't let the family find out I couldn't afford it. That's no longer my burden to carry, I said quietly. The call ended with her crying, offering desperate repayment timelines, all of which were impossible. I felt guilty, but also relieved. The charade needed to end. 3 days later, Sarah called an emergency family meeting. I need to tell everyone something important, she said when we gathered at Mom and Dad's house Thursday evening. Her red, puffy eyes made it clear she hadn't slept much. What's wrong, honey? Mom asked, instantly worried. Sarah inhaled shakily and looked around the room. I've been having serious financial problems, much worse than I admitted. I can't afford my mortgage, and I've been getting help. Dad leaned forward, frowning. What kind of help? A loan? A second mortgage? Emma has been paying my entire mortgage for the past 2 years, Sarah confessed. A heavy silence fell over the room, suffocating and absolute. Uncle Robert finally spoke. Emma has been paying it. I nodded calmly. $3,200 a month. I've been covering everything since she lost her first job. But you don't even... Dad started, then froze, realizing what he was about to say. Own property. I finished for him. Have a real career. Earn enough money to help someone else. Mom stared at me, stunned. How could you afford that on your consulting job? My consulting company manages $12 million in residential real estate, I said evenly. I personally own 17 rental properties. Sarah's mortgage is about 8% of my monthly rental income. The shock rippled through the room like an explosion. Sarah cried softly, humiliated now that the truth about her dependence was public. Dad went pale, processing a reality that completely contradicted everything he believed about me. 17 properties, Uncle Robert repeated in disbelief. Started with a duplex 5 years ago, rolled the rental income into more acquisitions. Standard real estate investing, I explained. I pulled a portfolio summary from my purse, one-page listing property locations, values, and rental income prepared for exactly this moment. Dad picked it up with trembling hands. It says your properties are worth over $4.2 million. Current market value, I confirmed. Probably an underestimate. Sarah wiped her tears. I didn't mean for it to go on this long, she said miserably. I kept thinking I'd get a better job or promotion. I just couldn't admit failure. Not to all of you. Why didn't you tell us she was helping you? Mom asked softly. Because you all think she's the unsuccessful one, Sarah snapped. Every family dinner is about how amazing I am and how Emma needs to try harder. How was I supposed to admit I needed her help just to survive? The room fell still as everyone absorbed her words. So when you were advising me about buying property, I began. I know how it sounds, she whispered, ashamed. I wanted to keep up appearances. I didn't want to seem like the struggling sister. Dad cleared his throat awkwardly. Emma, we owe you a sincere apology. We've been very wrong about you, wrong about a lot of things. I agreed quietly. But why didn't you ever tell us? Mom asked. Because your opinions didn't change my success, I replied. I didn't need recognition to build a thriving business. But I did grow tired of being judged by people who didn't know the truth. Uncle Robert was still clutching the portfolio summary. You built all this. Silently, while we made assumptions, I finished, offered unsolicited advice, treated me like the family disappointment. Real estate investing isn't flashy or dramatic. I added with a shrug. You buy properties, maintain them, collect rent, reinvest. It's not something I felt the need to broadcast. Sarah looked up anxiously. So what happens now? With the house, that's for you to figure out. I said calmly, you have 30 days to cover your mortgage without my help. I can't, she cried. My salary won't stretch far enough. You know that. Then sell the house, I said. Buy something you can actually afford. Increase your income. But I'm done financing your lifestyle. The meeting ended with awkward silence and half-hearted apologies that felt more like formalities than genuine. Remorse. Dad promised to be more supportive. Mom insisted she had always believed in me, though her past behavior said otherwise. Uncle Robert began asking for investment advice, which was ironic, considering his earlier criticisms. Over the following weeks, Sarah confronted her limited options. She listed the house for sale and began touring smaller condos and townhomes that aligned with her actual income. Her renovation plans vanished, along with the unrealistic image she had spent years maintaining. The truth hit her hardest. Without my financial support, she had to live within her means for the first time in years. At the next Sunday dinner, everything felt different. Gone were the stories about expensive improvements and promotions. Instead, Sarah talked about downsizing and budgeting. Realistically, Dad asked thoughtful questions about my real estate business. Mom wanted to understand how I had built it so quietly. I still can't believe you hid this success, Sarah admitted over dessert. All the times we teased you about your apartment. I live in a one-bedroom because I don't need more space. I explained, my money goes toward investments, not appearances. But you could afford so much more. A luxury condo, a house, she argued. I could buy a lot of things, I said simply. That doesn't mean I should. That evening's tone was entirely different, more balanced, more honest, with less competition. Sarah began opening up about her job search. I shared updates about property acquisitions and shifting market trends. I still feel awful about taking your money while criticizing you, she confessed months later. It taught me something, I replied. Helping someone through a short-term crisis is one thing. Supporting their unrealistic lifestyle forever is another. By the time her house sale closed in November, Sarah had learned to manage her finances realistically. That night, she texted me, first mortgage payment for the condo paid entirely by me. Feels incredible. Thank you for everything. And for finally saying no. Her message felt like the end of a long, exhausting chapter. She was learning accountability. I was learning boundaries. The family had finally adjusted to a new understanding of each of us based on truth, not assumptions. No more lectures from someone living beyond her means. No more silent financial support to protect someone else's false image. But most importantly, no more monthly transfers to uphold a facade that painted me as the family failure, and that was something truly worth celebrating.